Hi, I'm Kat, I play Sims, and I decided to make a little reading cafe in Nordhaven. It's pretty narrow to fit the area it's in. I've got the cafe on the bottom floor and a little apartment above. I thought I was making sort of a little deck space at first, but I did end up turning this into more of a tent. For the roof texture, I ended up using Businesses and Hobbies in the black metal, and I used Businesses and Hobbies stucco around the walls as well. I just put a little base game foundation on there. And then to enter the apartment upstairs, I added a little platform and some stairs up to it from Businesses and Hobbies, just in a black swatch to match the roof. And I used the little Businesses and Hobbies fence as well with the lights on it, and I used a base game black wood on the floors, both on the deck and up on the platform. For the stairs, I used one of each of those Businesses and Hobbies ones, and I used a Businesses and Hobbies door downstairs but a movie hangout door upstairs. And I used a lot of Businesses and Hobbies windows here as well. For the windows, I did use a mix of the more traditional ones and then the modern pane glass ones. Most of the more modern ones were upstairs on the apartment, but there were a couple downstairs. On the deck area, I decided to make a couple of the tall modern doors into sort of one sliding glass door because I wasn't entirely sure I liked the other two. And then I put a roof over the top of the outside area and decided to make it into a tent. So I used the Adventure Awaits roof texture and eaves, and I gave it some walls and gave those the canvas texture from Adventure Awaits as well. And then I put in some columns to sort of separate it from the main building. The columns were from Businesses and Hobbies as well, and then I used some of the canvas windows on the side from Adventure Awaits just to let some light in. I decided to do a little bit of work on the floor plan, so I started upstairs, gave it a fairly small bathroom, and I gave it a bedroom as well, which I had to move some windows around to fit. I wasn't making them very big because it was kind of an apartment for a single sim that owned the business. I played with the windows a little bit, and then I decided to try and find some signage for it to make it look like a business, so I got one that's actually from the Cozy Bistro kit that looked really nice against the stucco. And I decided to do the floor plan downstairs, so I gave it a fairly large bathroom. Outside, I changed the floor texture of the decking from Adventure Awaits, and I put the canvas on the inside as well. I used the Businesses and Hobbies wood flooring, and then for the tile in the bathroom I used base game in a really bright yellow. I put some Businesses and Hobbies siding on the walls, and then I mixed it with a sort of pastel yellow paint on the other walls. I wanted the lighting to be a bit different down here, so I used Cozy Bistro lights hanging in the main space, which are quite warm, and I put Adventure Awaits out in the deck area. I used Businesses and Hobbies toilet stalls in here. I genuinely don't think this is functional because I haven't given it enough room again, but I used the Businesses and Hobbies sinks and some Cozy Kitsch lights in there as well. And then I just put some base game mirrors up in a bright yellow and elevated them with tulle. For a little bit of clutter, I just added the Get Together towels next to the sink, and I used the wall soaps from Snowy Escape. Because I intended this to be like a reading cafe, I put in some bookshelves at the back, so I've got the yellow one from Cozy Kitsch and the Refined Living Room books on top of it. I used some custom content artwork, and then I put in the Businesses and Hobbies bookshelves as well, and the decorative fireplace from Cozy Kitsch with an ottoman from Adventure Awaits. I decided to put a bar out in the deck area, so I put the Businesses and Hobbies one in yellow. I put in some growing together picnic tables, and then out on the garden area I put out some Riviera retreat tables as well. I decided to add a sofa from Seasons in the yellow, and then I went inside and I put in the coffee counter from Businesses and Hobbies as well. I quickly nipped outside and got the Eco Lifestyle dumpster, and then I put the Love Struck mailbox next to the upstairs door as well. I wanted some seating inside the cafe, so I used the booths from Cozy Bistro, and I decided to move things around a little bit. So I put the doors on the deck at the other side, moved the coffee counter, and then I was able to put 2 booths in on the inside with base game tables. I was doing quite a bright yellow and pinkish colour scheme, so I used a big rug from Pastel Pop that I'd sized up. And I moved things around a little bit so I could put a custom content rug at the back as well. I used a little coffee display item and then the Cozy Bistro wall menu. I added a couple of chalkboards out on the deck from Get Together, and I put in a little pride flag and a phone inside. I needed a kiosk for the business, so I used a Dream Home Decorator counter and put the new kiosk from the weird SpongeBob event in there as well. I put in some custom artwork, and then I tried to use a really big plant from Businesses and Hobbies, but it just would not fit without clipping. So I used a backyard stuff one instead. I put up a cozy bistro mirror above the coffee bar, and then I decided to increase the seating out on the deck. I used a couple of Adventure Awaits rugs out there that were a really nice fit to the colour scheme. I put some backyard stuffed chairs outside on the tables, and then I decided I needed to do some of the work upstairs in the apartment, so I used that same Businesses and Hobbies floor. Custom content on the bedroom walls, and then the refined living room wallpaper out in the main space. I used Riviera Retreat and Businesses and Hobbies in the bathroom. I stopped the windows clipping into the roof, and I put in a horse ranch bed that actually fit the wallpaper really well with a cozy kitsch side table. I used the Businesses and Hobbies dresser in yellow to match the walls, and I put in a Businesses and Hobbies mirror as well, and a pastel pop bookcase in the corner that matched the walls perfectly. I used the same Adventure Awaits rug in a slightly different colour scheme, and I put the paranormal plant in the corner as well as the comfy gamer book and a little water bottle on the side table. I put some freezer bunny clutter in the bookcase, and then I went out and decided to do the bathroom, so I used a mix of sleek bathroom and growing together for the toilet and sink. I added a little divider, and then I put in the sleek bathroom shower as well. I added some base game blinds so that the customers of the cafe couldn't look right into the bathroom, and I just put in the usual clutter like towels and a Dream Home Decorator mirror above the sink. I moved the window because it was clipping into the wall, and then for the kitchen I used the kitchen clutter kit fridge in a pink, a custom content oven, and some Dream Home Decorator counters. I put in matching upper counters and decided to use the long one for the end instead of having the end piece. I shifted the window over again, and I used the kitchen clutter sink in a matching shade. I changed the eaves on the roof of the deck area because it was clipping into the house, and I moved on the living area, so I used a custom content frame TV, which I decided to use the other wall for. I shifted the bedroom door a little bit so I could force it to fit, and then used a cozy kitsch sofa in there. I added a little custom content side table, and then I decided to do the dining table, so I used Businesses and Hobbies for the table and Cozy Bistro for the chairs. I added a desk from Nifty Knitting in a pink shade and the pastel pop desk chair with a little Businesses and Hobbies computer. I added a speaker from Growing Together, and I put in a custom content rug by the door. I put in a little bit of custom artwork and a candle on the table by the sofa. And then I decided I wanted the sim to have a pet, so I put in a cat litter tray in the bathroom, which I barely had space for. I put in an automatic feeder outside and a little pet bed in the corner, and then I added a cat tree from Cats and Dogs, and I decided to put up more artwork, so I used Cozy Kitsch on a couple of the walls, and then I added a big custom piece as well. Instead of the post item, I put up the Pride event hanger by the door, and then I went outside to finish off the seating area, so I put in some hedges and moved the tables to stop clipping with it. And I finally added stairs to the deck area as well with the fences to match. For landscaping, I filled in a few areas with tall cypress trees and birch trees and things that seemed to match the area. I just tried to cover a few gaps in the front. I added terrain paint around the trees and in a couple of areas underneath different things. And I wanted some low bush type things, so I put in some hydrangeas in the white swatch. I decided to put some string lights on the tent, so I had to put walls back in briefly to make them fit across and then just delete them from there. I added a gravel texture underneath the seating area, and I made a little path with it as well out the front between the stairs and towards the hedges, and with that I was done, so enjoy the screenshots. please consider a like and subscribe.